Today I will be discussing the League of the Physically Handicapped and what it eventually led to, the United Spinal Association. The League of the Physically Handicapped was formed in New York City during the Great Depression in 1935. It was formed by a group of young handicapped people who realized that able-bodied people were being given all the jobs and, being treated way better at job sites. They noticed employers were not nearly as likely to hire somebody who was physically disabled as someone who was not, even if the job didn't require much physical work and they could do the job, better than someone who was able-bodied. They noticed they were being treated very unfairly at work, even when they did have jobs as well. And they actually held the first pickets and sit-ins of any disability rights group ever. So they were one of the first disability rights group and one of the first groups to do this thing. They ultimately disbanded in 1939 when they felt they had reached their goals, getting physically disabled people jobs in New York and surrounding areas. And they knew these goals were very limited, but they were happy with where they got to, and they thought it was a realistic, they achieved their realistic goals, so they decided to disband. The disbandment of this group led to successor groups in the future. One of those successor groups was the Eastern Paralyzed Veterans of America, now known as the United Spinal Association. This picture I have down here is a picture of a protest going on by the Eastern Paralyzed Veterans of America. Seems like most of them are in wheelchairs, and they're all holding signs, to raise awareness about disabled veterans and the struggles they're going through. Some of the signs read, "Keep faith in disabled vets. How about Brooklyn VA Hospital? Don't let us down. How dare they? Don't break promises." So, they're looking for those, they were promised going into the war, we'll take care of you when you come home. And they go into the war and come home and no one's taking care of them, and they're being treated unfairly. So they decided to form a group and fight. So the EVPA was formed in 1946, and Robert Moss, who was a private first class in World War II, was the first leader. He was injured in World War II and came home with a spinal injury that left him in a wheelchair. So him and, many other of these World War II vets coming home, having to use wheelchairs, who were being treated unfairly, created the EPVA. The EPVA started as a group to raise awareness just for veterans and the fair treatment of paralyzed veterans in specific. This group, though, led to the formation of the United Spinal Association to help all with disabilities instead of just veterans with spinal disabilities in specific. This photo down here is a photo of Robert Moss at his desk. As I said, he was a World War II vet, private first class, who was injured and came home in a wheelchair, and then he was elected to be the leader of the EPVA. And here he is sitting at his desk. It's hard to tell what he could be doing. Looks like he could be talking to someone. He's got papers scattered all around. Some of the major contributions of the EPVA / the United Spinal Association. I just decided to narrow it down to 3 instead of cluttering the page with all of them, because there is a lot of them. But 3 of the biggest ones that I noticed were in 1948, when they were still the EPVA, that helped pass a public law 702 to build homes for paralyzed veterans. This was only 2 years after they were founded, so this is a pretty major accomplishment in that short of time. to pass an actual law that homes need to be built for paralyzed veterans, because not enough was being done at that time for veterans and for disabled veterans and paralyzed veterans in specific. In 1990, the USA now, United Spinal Association, actually contributed to writing portions of the Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990, which, as we all know, was um, one of the biggest historical events of disability rights in the entire world. So it's pretty cool that they had they contributed to writing portions of the act. In 1995, the United Spinal Association helped make New York City's bus system 100% wheelchair accessible, which is actually huge, and it's more recent than these past two. But like in New York City, you need pretty much if you have a job, you're gonna have to take the bus. You can't drive a car to your job every day. So help passing this law in New York City was huge. Hitting that mark of 100% wheelchair accessible was absolutely a gigantic step in the right direction. And this is 1995, so we're already making huge progress back then, which not a lot of people were really aware back then of the struggles that disabled Americans were going through. So that's kind of huge that they were able to do that. One of the reasons I decided to pick this topic was because I'm a veteran myself, and I thought the League of the Physically Handicapped was a very interesting group, being they're the first disability rights group to hold sit-ins and pickets, which is really cool. And that eventually led to the Eastern Paralyzed Veterans of America, which is it's cool to see. Not only disability rights movements going on, but to be able to link it in with veterans was also really cool for me. And then, that turns into the United Spinal Association, and they're still around today, making huge progress, and it's all based back to the League of the Physically Handicapped. So that's kind of why I decided to talk about them today.